So the custom computer websites I've reviewed in the past are from all across the US. I don't pick businesses in particular just because they're in certain states. It's irrelevant in my eyes. They're all sharing the same currency and generally speaking the same markets. And most of them that I do end up checking out are linked by viewers of this channel. But this website in particular, Dauntless Computers, really struck a chord with me. First of all, it's literally 30 minutes from my house in North Orlando. Second of all, the product descriptions are lackluster, to say the least. And third of all, the prices are downright ridiculous. But rather than just focus on the negatives in this video, I'd like to turn this around into constructive feedback for the business owner. He or she might benefit from some of the stuff that we talk about in this video, maybe help them just make more money. It's the point of running a business anyway, to make money, right? And to keep your customers satisfied. The only ones I feel like are going to be satisfied at this point are the ones who have no idea what they're buying. So let's get to it. If you're sick of seeing that same Activate Windows watermark over and over, snag an OEM license from SCD Key. You'll have a fully activated OS in seconds, and you can kiss that watermark goodbye. And be sure to use menu offer code GSL for that sweet discount. So again, I'm going to try to be more constructive in this video. I think it will still be entertaining to some degree, but I think you will also learn quite a bit about the value of these components and the value of a business that's actually forthright about what they are selling, because right now we don't get that on this site, and that's a big issue. You need to know what's going into your system before you spend $850. Even if you plan to disclose what's going to be in that system later to the potential buyer, it should be upfront. It should be disclosed right away so that I can, gauge interest immediately versus dragging out a conversation that maybe doesn't need to happen if the parts aren't satisfactory. I'm going to show you this front page here of the Dauntless Computers website. Yeah, it's looking kind of clunky, a bit clunky, but it's not terrible. I've seen worse websites, all right? I have seen better websites, but I think it's okay to be in the middle. So let's dive into the meat and potatoes. We're gonna click on the products tab. I should switch back over to this. Okay, Dauntless Computers was founded in 2012 and has since grown to be the largest custom computer manufacturer in the Orlando area. Wow, maybe gonna press the doubt button on that one, but okay, that's a bold claim. Our focus at Dauntless Computers is getting the machine of your dreams into your hands. Our team can build anything from beginners PCs to high-end server equipment, office computers, deep learning machines, and from custom NAS machines to in-home servers. At competing PC companies, you'll often see each of your upgrade options marked up as much as 200%. At Dauntless Computers, you don't have to worry about that. But okay, in all seriousness, these are some bold claims. If they hold up, that's great on them. If they don't, we got some problems. So let's click on the Sentry first. This is the $850 PC, the cheapest one they offer, mind you. It says the Dauntless Sentry is based around providing the least expensive access to computer gaming in the industry. Wait, hold on a second. You're saying that $850 is like the cheapest gaming PC I can buy or build? Really? $850 will go a long way. I feel like saying the least expensive access is just, that's a bit dishonest. I mean, come on. This entry-level gaming computer will play many games on high and most others at medium. Again, with the bold claim, but I've got a feeling if you're gonna hype this up as like the least expensive access gaming computer at $850, we're gonna be a bit let down in that department. So further down, we've got the AMD and the Intel solutions. They split these up by CPU, by manufacturer. I think that's actually a pretty cool idea, a good way to approach it. But then we've got super vague specifications listed here. Like the processor, the video card, RAM, storage case, motherboard, and power supply. All of these are super freaking vague. Now, what do I mean by that? Okay, processor, AMD Ryzen 4 core. Yeah, you see the problem here. Is this a Gen 1, a Ryzen 5 1400? Is this a 3400G? Is this a 3100 or a 3300X? Who freaking knows? It's so vague that I'm not even sure how to put a value on the system, because you can get a Ryzen 5 1400 used for a lot less than you can get a 3300X. It's just how the market is right now. AMD Radeon RX 460, 2 gig or 4 gig. Okay, well, you see in the $850 price tag, it could be a 2 gig or 4 gig. It kind of just depends. Look, there's a big difference there. The frame buffer will make a difference. Even in 1080p, when you're talking about stacking mods, just like extended distance scaling, things like that, you're going to hit that 2 gig buffer much faster than you hit the 4 gig one. Even for an RX 460, I'd say that 4 gig is fine. 2 gig is definitely cutting it off at its knees. So this is a problem. You need to be more specific there. The RAM, 8 gigs DDR4. Okay, what speed? What cache? Like more issues. Just more vagueness. What's the word? You guys know what the word is. Anyway, 1 terabyte hard drive. That's your storage drive. You're getting a 1 terabyte hard drive in an $850 system. That alone speaks miles in regards to the value of this system. If you're not even squeezing in like a 240 gig SSD, something that is significantly faster than your typical 1 terabyte hard drive, we've got a problem in an $850 system or thereabouts. Micro ATX case. I'm at a loss for words. What case? I literally do not know anything specific about the system apart from the price. That is a huge, huge red flag. In fact, probably the worst part about this, the standard 250 watt to 450 watt power supply. It could be 250 watts, could be 450. Maybe it wakes up on Wednesdays and decides to be a 450 watt, but on weekends and beginning and ends of the week, it's 250 watt. It's kind of what it's feeling on that day. That's what it'll push out wattage wise. This is ridiculous. I do not understand how people look at this and say, yeah, I'm interested in this. I'd like to know more. Like that should not be the job of the buyer. And I want to make this very clear for anyone looking to start up a business like this. You should not leave the buyer hanging. They should not need to ask so many more questions about the product before they give you their credit card or they give you their PayPal information. You should answer all of these questions. They might ask them some really weird ones, and you're not going to get around those buyers. But the general questions that should be answered on the website, right? You need to have those taken care of beforehand. I know nothing about I know nothing about the system apart from like kind of sort of how it's going to perform, and that's a problem in an $850 system. If I'm going to spend this much money, I want to know specifically what's going in. This is like buying a car and saying, well, yeah, it's got 4 wheels, it's got a V8. And it's got a decent entertainment system. Just like your average seats. That's all they are. They're just average seats. Back seats. They're pretty small, but we got back seats. By the way, if you're wondering, the Intel solution pretty much the same, although for some reason they are more specific in regards to the CPU. So G4600, a Pentium G4600, and an $850 system, folks. And then RX 470 4 gig. At least we know we're getting a 4 gig frame buffer for the 470, but we don't know the maker model again, and that could influence my decision as to whether or not I want this system. Price aside again. The storage drive, for whatever reason, is converted to a 250 gig SSD for the Intel system, but not for the AMD one. That's kind of weird. You get your good old standard MATX motherboard there, and then a 450 watt power supply. So this system is getting a 450 watt no matter what. Your AMD system, 250 to 450 watt, ballpark. So already pretty big glaring problems with this website. I would suggest whoever owns the site, whoever runs this business, strongly consider refreshing everything, being much more specific with the parts. It'd be different if you were a boutique builder, right? If you were asking the buyer to tell you specifically what they want in the system, that's totally fine. But these are pre-built. You're marketing them as pre-built solutions, and you're not being specific at all with literally almost everything in the build. That's to me, that business model does not make sense, and you're going to end up with buyers who don't take you seriously. I could go on. Look, the stock trading computer. Yeah, they have a stock trading computer starting at $1,600. Dauntless Computers introduces a stock trading computer. This machine that is capable of using up to 4 5K monitors and is capable of handling over 240 gigaflops, making it an ideal machine for trading on a budget. Okay, the English, you got to sort out the syntax. You don't want to have glaring sentence structure issues on a site like this. That's one of them. That's one of the first ones I found. But anyway, and then again, we're very vague with the processor Ryzen 8 core. Okay, which one? 1700, 1700X, 1800X, 2700X, 3800X. Who freaking knows? Video card Quadro P2000. Okay. The idea that I know why they're using the Quadro, right? Because you have 4 DisplayPort outs on that card, whereas most graphics cards that are like consumer grade will have 3 of those, and then maybe an HDMI 2.0 out or something like that. You could still run for great monitors with a consumer grade card, but they're going to make you pay a bit more for the P2000 just because of the Quadro name. 16 gigs DDR4, okay, 16 gigs, that's kind of the bare minimum for a system like this. 500 gig SSD, kind of, again, the bare minimum. Gaming ATX, but we're not specific on the motherboard at all for whatever reason. And the power supply, 450 watt. That's it. You're just getting a 450 watt. We're not going to tell you which one. So yeah, there's that. And then let's also talk about the order loop that I found on the website. So let's say I want to buy a product. Let's say I want to buy the Sentry. So receive a free quote. By the way, I tried this with legit like info and it still didn't work, so it's not like it's flagging it. So click receive a free quote now. Boom. And then it takes me to, okay, well, choose your computer. Well, I did choose my, I chose what it was already. I chose the Intel Sentry system. But okay, let's go back and, okay, well, I got to click on this again. All right. Wait, so you're telling me I have to fill this out again? So that's the issue there. That's a pretty glaring one. Let's say you want to build a custom computer. So you can actually tell Dauntless Computers what you want semi-specifically in your system. Again, you can't really choose what AMD CPU part from core count is going into that system, but you can tell them, again, somewhat specifically what you want. This is weird. And then 16 gigs of DDR4. We have no idea what speed that is. And then Ryzen 6 core. And then let's see, graphics card. Let's do a 1660 Ti. What do we have here? Mid-size ATX. Yeah, I like mid-size. And then what? So I can't choose a 1 terabyte hard drive, just a 2 terabyte? Okay, I'll leave that off. How about a 1 terabyte SATA? All right, and then let's include an operating system. Calculate, whoa, $1,300 for a Ryzen 6 core, which we don't even know which one this is. Let's assume it's the 1600, like, even the 2600. Those are around 120 bucks new. And then 16 gigs of DDR4 you can get for 60 bucks. And then a 1660 Ti, which is a $250 card thereabouts. This market's a little weird. A mid-size case, which we have no clue what case it is, but I'm going to assume it's going to be around 60 bucks, maybe a S340 or a Vantex P350X or P300, who knows? No hard drive and a 1 terabyte SSD with an operating system. You're telling me that's $1,300. But okay, look, let's assume I am still interested. I think the $1,300 price, for whatever reason, is like a steal for this PC. I'm going to put my name and contact information in here, and then I'm going to click order now. What do you know? I get sent right back to the order loop. I want custom, I just did this. Why am I having to do it again? But the worst part about this site, and this is gonna come across a bit harsh, I understand that, but I feel like it needs to be said, the dishonesty. You cannot be dishonest with your clients if you want to build a solid, reliable, and positive reputation in your area by saying that your competitors mark up systems by as much as $200, but that you don't have to worry about that at Dauntless Computers, and then to go and actually do just that, mark up your systems by hundreds and hundreds of dollars. I mean, the Sentry system alone. This is even if I assume the best 4-core out there, even if I assume the most expensive RX 460, which is an entry-level card at best, but it deserves to be in a system much cheaper than this, you're still nowhere close to 850 bucks. I could build this system for under $500 today in this current market right now. Oh, what's that? You don't believe me? Okay, I'll show you. Yeah, I upgraded you. Ryzen 5 2600 instead of that Ryzen 3 nonsense. I gave you a B450M motherboard from Gigabyte, so you shouldn't have any BIOS compatibility issues. I gave you 16 gigs of DDR4 instead of the 8 they were going to give you, and I'm also specific on my frequencies here. I'm going to give you a 3200 megahertz kit, CL16 instead of whatever vague stuff this is right here. And then I also gave you an upgraded graphics card, RX 574 gig from ASRock for 130 bucks. And yes, these are all Amazon and Newegg. They're not Best Buy and Walmart or whatever other excuse a few people always tend to use in the comments. Well, you use Outlet PC. Who buys from Outlet PCs? There you go. It's all Amazon and Newegg, all right? I gave you a Cooler Master Masterbox Q300L for 50 bucks. I also gave you a Thermaltake 500 watt 80 plus power supply, a much better power supply than I expect you'll be getting here because this vague nonsense isn't gonna fly. And, oh, what do you know? $532.84. Oh, what about the Windows 10 operating system? Buy yourself an OEM or volume key for 15 bucks, okay? From a site like our sponsors, that's all you need. You don't even need to activate Windows. Some people were saying, oh, well, you actually don't get the full Windows 10 experience if you don't activate. That's not really true, unless you care about the watermark and you care about the wallpaper change thing, because those are the only two things you're going to notice from an unactivated Windows operating system. Everything else will run identically, even performance-wise. You won't have any slowdowns at all by running an unactivated version of Windows 10. Like, Microsoft cares more about your personal data than they do about you activating their software. That's how much your data means to them, okay? So anyway, we are eons away from that $850 ask. And if you're wondering, if you're gonna say, well, okay, well, this could be a really good chip. Look, they can't get a 3300X because I can't get a 3300. If I can't get a 3300X, there's no way they can, okay? They're in the same boat I am. The RX 460, okay, what card? Again, the Ryzen, or the RX 570 that I put in there was a much better card. We upgraded everything, literally everything, and we still paid less, significantly less than what they say this is going to be worth. Now, there is one more thing I wanted to do before I ended this video. I wanted to contact whoever was responding to emails on their side and ask them specifically what was going to be in the Sentry system, in this system here. I had no idea what these parts were, so I sent a friendly email, and I actually used my own personal email here. I didn't try to use a pseudonym or some kind of anonymous email. I just used my corporate email, and I asked them, said, hey, I'd like to buy this system, but before I buy it, I'd like to know what specifically is going into it. I want to know what CPU it is, what specifically, graphics card wise is going in, what brand. I want to know what sort of power supply I'm going to see in the system, what case will be used, what motherboard, basically everything. I need more specifics is what I asked them. And I got this email. Hi, Greg. We are currently revising the Sentry components right now due to the rise in part prices caused by you-know-what. I don't want to get demonetized. I'll get those new part specs sent to you as soon as we figure out the configuration we'll go for. Well, this was sent 2 days ago from time of filming, and I haven't heard back yet, but that sounds a lot to me like they plan to raise the price of this system, or they plan to dumb down the components even more to squeeze in that margin, whatever margin they're going for. It's got to be a pretty hefty one because $850 is eons away from what the system actually costs them to build. And it's not even like they include shipping. They want you to pick this up. It's a local business. They want you to pick this up from their store, which just... So the things I would like to see Dauntless Computers change in the future. Some things need complete remodeling from the ground up. I don't think the site is terrible, but it could use it could use some spicing up. I'll give them that. The custom order, the Sentry, the all-arounder, like these breakdowns are okay. Although I would try to consolidate these into maybe like 2 or 3. Maybe like a $500 bare bones system, a $1,000 all-arounder to use your words, and then maybe like an overkill, the Advantage, $2,500 system. You don't need like a stock trading computer. Like to me, this is just hype here. The foolproof gaming, this seems like a nightmare to fulfill. There's just so much involved with it. The enthusiast gaming, you could combine both of these, and you could allow still for that custom option. If your buyer wants specific parts included, that's totally fine. You're kind of consulting them at that point. You could charge more for that if you wanted. But the idea of marking up a system like this by over 50%, and then calling it the least expensive access to computer gaming in the industry, that's a lie. That is a straight up lie. The other things that need to be changed, how vague the parts lists are. I keep reiterating this because it is so important to be specific. Even if you have to change things in the middle of the purchase, you could contact the customer and tell them, hey, this particular card we had listed on the site is no longer in stock. Would you be okay if we swapped it for this one at no extra charge? That's all you need to do, right? But at least I know going into the purchase what to expect. I have no idea what to expect with this one. That's a huge problem. That's one of the biggest problems. And then, of course, what I believe to be the biggest problem with the site, the fact that I can't actually submit an order anywhere. If the goal is to have the customer email the business, then that's fine. But you need to disclose that up front, not have us submit a ticket that literally goes nowhere. They never responded to any of the tickets I submitted earlier using my legitimate email address. So I don't think they're getting any of these that are submitted. It just sends you, again, through an endless loop. So they need to be much clearer in regards to how to purchase the product or submit a product inquiry, apart from just listing and order options and then having me go through a circle that takes me nowhere. That's probably the most frustrating part about this website, apart from the fact that there are some very misleading statements in it. So with that, look, I want this to be constructive. I want to revisit this video in the future and kind of go through the changes that the website has made to make it just more enjoyable for the customer. That's what I would like to see at the end of this. So if we could maybe come back to this in a few months and kind of reevaluate how things have changed and if things have changed for the better, that would be great. If the business owner wanted to contact me and wanted my input on anything, look, I don't claim to know everything about PCs. I don't claim to know how to run every business there is to run, but this is kind of my wheelhouse, and I have done similar things in the past. In fact, I was flipping inventory quite a bit in college to bring you guys new content, and I didn't really spend much money out of pocket because I was slowly working my way up and just marking up systems by $50 to $100 at the most to kind of move through that inventory. So I would be more than happy to provide any sort of expertise I can offer to this company if they want it. But I will say that a lot needs to be changed. I hope they look at this video more constructively than they do critically and want to contact me on a more serious note to kind of reevaluate some of the approaches they use on this website to sell PCs. I'm not sure how they're doing financially right now, but I don't want to see them go out of business. That's not my goal. I think that everyone deserves a second chance. I think that this would be an easy fix if the owner is just willing to acknowledge the faults, sit down and change those with me or whoever. Even if they just want to change it themselves, use this video as that for the feedback. Use other customer concerns. Use comments in this video as feedback if you want to make those changes. That would be pretty awesome. All right, that is it for this one. You guys have been awesome. If you want to leave that feedback, do so in the comment section below. Consider liking the video, subscribing, and I will catch you in the next one. Hopefully, in a few videos, we'll be able to go through this again and see if they've made any changes. Maybe I hear from the business owner and they want to do a meetup. They want me to go to the office and kind of like talk about how they sell PCs, things like that. That would be really cool, really insightful. It would give them publicity and look, they can turn this into a positive thing for sure. With that, yeah, I'm gonna get out of here. See you guys in the next one. My name is Greg. Thanks for, I'm gonna say it, cringing with me.